Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing exactly that, diving deep into a specific case study, focusing on a Southern California hospice owner,
Yeah.
and we're going to really unpack what it reveals.
Yeah, absolutely. Our mission with this deep dive is to, you know, really understand the mechanics of how strategic preparation, coupled with a compliance-first approach to adopting AI,
No.
helped a small business owner.
Okay.
Help them not just break through a stubborn growth plateau, but also build in serious protection against, well, potentially devastating risks.
Mm-hmm.
We're using this case study as our roadmap, essentially.
Right. So the picture painted is of a small business kind of hitting that frustrating wall, facing off against much larger competitors, feeling really held back by manual, maybe old school ways of doing things, but with this big vision to scale up significantly. And the surprising twist, based on the source material, is that they didn't just aim for growth, they achieved it while proactively shielding the business from what could have been absolutely crippling compliance penalties. It's a fascinating setup.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start where the case study begins. The core business challenge. What was the starting point for this hospice provider?
So the source tells us this was a hospice provider operating in Southern California. And they were stuck. Specifically, they were plateaued at around 17 monthly admissions.
Just 17. Okay.
Yeah, stuck there. Their goal, their big aspiration described in the case study, was ambitious. They wanted to reach 30 or more monthly admissions.
30 plus. Wow.
And they wanted to do it fast within just 4 months.
Almost doubling admissions in 4 months. That's a tight timeline. What were the signs on the surface that showed they were stuck at 17?
Well, the case study points to several clear symptoms. You had a talented business development director, someone with the skills, right?
Right.
But they were completely bogged down by manual work. Just couldn't cover enough ground.
Right.
The owner saw this and realized the solution wasn't just throwing more bodies at the problem. They needed to empower the talent they already had.
Makes sense.
They were also really struggling to win key contracts, mentioning being specifically blocked from an LA Care contract. Larger competitors, the big players, seemed to dominate just by virtue of their size and existing deals.
Uh-huh.
Plus, the owner was wearing that classic small business owner's burden, juggling daily operations when they desperately needed time to focus on strategic growth.
Yeah, pulled in too many directions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And their follow-up process. It was inconsistent at best, hindering those crucial relationships you need in healthcare referrals.
You know, that feeling of having good people and a good service, but just not being able to break through that invisible ceiling, I bet a lot of listeners can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely.
But the source material doesn't just stop at the surface. It really digs into the deeper strategic issues driving those symptoms. What did the research uncover about the root causes?
Exactly. The surface pain points were just symptoms of more fundamental problems. A major one was the owner's bandwidth. Their strategic thinking time was constantly being devoured by operational firefighting, just keeping things running day to day.
Right. No time to look up.
Pretty much. The industry itself faces what the source calls a trust crisis. There are significant public misconceptions about hospice, often viewed negatively, instead of as crucial end-of-life support.
Interesting point.
Then there's competitive displacement. Massive providers, names like Vitas, Silverado, Rose Lane mentioned in the source, dominating through sheer scale and contracts, sometimes not necessarily because they offer superior personal care.
Okay.
This created a scale versus quality dilemma for the smaller hospice. How do you grow significantly without losing that personal high-touch service that's your differentiator?
The core of who they are.
Precisely. Their manual processes also meant a significant response time disadvantage compared to more automated competitors. And because they're in healthcare, HIPAA requirements impose serious compliance constraints, limiting the kinds of technology and data handling they could even consider.
Always a factor in healthcare.
Oh, and one specific detail the case study mentions that really stuck out for resource inefficiency. They were paying $100 a month for a hosting service that was actually providing less than $10 a month in value.
Wait, paying $100 for less than $10 worth of value, that's wild, but it highlights how small inefficiencies can really eat into resources, can't they?
Absolutely. It adds up quickly.
So they're facing this multi-layered challenge: stuck growth, competitive pressure, compliance headaches, and wasted resources. How did the case study describe their approach to finding a way forward?
This is where the methodology described in the source really differentiates itself. It went far beyond just deciding we need AI. The core principle was comprehensive strategic preparation before any technology implementation even began.
Okay, preparation first.
Yes, the case study highlights 6 dedicated hours spent on pre-engagement strategic research, just getting the lay of the land.
6 hours before even formally start.
Exactly. They broke this down specifically. Phase 1 was industry intelligence gathering, taking about 3 hours. This is something the source explicitly notes many typical AI consultants just skip.
Interesting.
They didn't just guess. They used AI research tools like Claude, ChatGPT, and Perplexity, as mentioned in the source, to do these deep dives.
Okay, using AI to research AI adoption, essentially.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
This included regulatory landscape research, understanding the compliance requirements,
Mm.
recent changes, detailed documentation needs, and specific audit triggers relevant to hospice. Very detailed stuff.
Crucial for healthcare?
Absolutely. They did competitive intelligence analysis, studying the dominant players like Vitas, Silverado, and Rose Lane, identifying gaps in their service and analyzing how they win contracts. They focused on customer pain point identification. What truly concerns families? How do healthcare providers actually make referrals? And where are the opportunities in skilled nursing facilities, or SNFs?
Yeah, SNFs, right?
And they did market opportunity mapping, finding underserved segments, exploring alternative strategies for contracts they were blocked from, like that LA Care example, and identifying potential value-add services they could offer.
Wow, building that level of detailed market intelligence before talking specific tech. That seems like a fundamental step that could save a lot of missteps later on.
You got it. It lays a much stronger foundation.
How did they then take all that industry knowledge and apply it specifically to the client in phase 2?
So phase 2 was client-specific strategic development, about 2 hours dedicated just to applying those insights. They performed a unique positioning analysis, identifying what made this hospice special.
What set them apart?
Exactly. The case study mentions specific differentiators, like their ability to provide 60% oxygen capacity compared to the more standard 40%.
Oh, interesting technical detail.
Yeah, and their cultural sensitivity in the diverse Los Angeles market, and their clear advantage in offering a genuinely personal touch versus what the source describes as the potentially robotic feel of some large providers.
Right, the human element.
They looked at technology stack optimization, finding those cost-saving opportunities like the hosting example, exploring how new tools could integrate with their existing healthcare record system, the Hospice MD EMR.
Important integration point.
Very. And identifying budget-conscious options like HubSpot instead of much more expensive CRMs like Playmaker, which was also mentioned in the source.
Smart cost management.
And they also use this phase for strategic entry point identification, focusing on high-potential areas like SNFs and specific physician groups, and brainstorming alternative LA care strategies like community town halls or coalition building.
Getting creative there.
And then phase 3 was strategic discovery validation, just 1 hour. This is where that pre-positioned knowledge paid off hugely. Instead of starting from scratch, they came to the client with already researched insights.
So they hit the ground running in that first meeting.
Exactly. They could present findings that the client confirmed and educate the client on important issues they might not have even been aware of from their daily operations. This validated their understanding of the competitive landscape, confirmed that the ambitious 30-plus admission goal was achievable with the right strategy and tools, and helped pinpoint specific operational constraints and opportunities.
So the case study really highlights how this wasn't just about buying some AI software. It was about deeply understanding the entire business landscape and the client's specific situation first. It feels like laying an incredibly solid foundation.
That's the crux of it, yes. Foundation first.
Speaking of foundations, since we're talking healthcare, data is incredibly sensitive. The case study puts a huge emphasis on a Hype A first technology architecture. Why was compliance so critical here, and what was the risk they were facing?
Well, compliance wasn't just a checkbox. It was, frankly, existential. The source calls it the million-dollar risk.
$1 million.
Or more. It lists examples of recent HIPAA violation costs for healthcare providers that are truly eye-watering. Cornell Pharmacy, $125K. Gulf Coast Pain Consultants hit with $1.19 million.
Wow.
Children's Hospital Colorado, over $548K. A mental health center, $100K. A NJ nursing facility facing a civil penalty. The case study emphasizes the potential penalty range, from $141 all the way up to over $2.1 million per violation, depending on how serious it is, the level of negligence.
For a violation, that's staggering.
It really is. What's fascinating here is what the source claims many typical AI consultants miss. They might assume a tool like ChatGPT Teams is compliant straight out of the box, which isn't necessarily true for handling protected health information, or PHI, without proper configuration.
Right, it's not automatic.
No, they focus only on the prompts what you ask the AI without considering the crucial underlying security architecture. They miss requirements for comprehensive logging and access control, which you absolutely need for audits or if there's ever a breach.
The audit trail, yeah.
They often don't understand data classification, knowing which data is safe to use broadly and which is sensitive PHI that needs strict handling. And critically, they might overlook the need for business associate agreements, or BAAs,
The BAAs, right?
which are legally required contracts with any vendor who handles PHI on your behalf. Skipping that is a major red flag.
Imagine building a business and then having a single compliance mistake cost you more than the entire business is worth. That scale of risk is terrifying.
It can be crippling.
So based on their 25 years of compliance expertise, as mentioned in the source, what kind of high-pay compliant foundation did they actually build?
They built it from the ground up, keeping compliance absolutely central. This involved a secure AI environment setup, specifically using ChatGPT Teams, but crucially, configured with data training disabled so sensitive client data couldn't accidentally become part of the model.
That's key, disabling the training.
Absolutely critical. They leveraged built-in privacy protection from tools like Claude, which is architected with privacy more inherently in mind. They implemented comprehensive logging to track all access and activity, essential for audits. They established clear data classification rules, rigorously distinguishing between non-sensitive marketing data and sensitive PHI.
Knowing what's what.
Exactly. And they ensured all technology vendors involved had the necessary business associate agreements, or BAAs, in place. No exceptions.
That level of rigor sounds absolutely essential, especially in healthcare. So how did they then weave this secure, compliant foundation into the actual technology strategy and tools they implemented?
Right? The entire technology integration strategy was built on this compliant base. The Secure AI Foundation was that configured ChatGPT Teams environment, HIPAA compliant, data training off, with enterprise controls, access logging, and a dedicated workspace. This is where they built comprehensive prompt libraries and specific workflows tailored for the business development team.
Okay, so the secure sandbox.
Pretty much. They then developed what they called a super assistant. Using Claude MCP, you can think of MCP as the connector brain that integrates Claude with other systems.
Ah, the integration piece.
Yes. This assistant was designed to be both a strategic advisor and a personal assistant for the business development director. It integrated Claude with MCP, Office 365, HubSpot, WordPress, and even People Data Labs for market data.
All talking to each other securely.
That's the goal. They integrated Microsoft Office 365 for secure email automation, calendar management, and document collaboration. HubSpot CRM connectivity allowed for automated contact enrichment, pipeline management, and consistent automated follow-up sequences, a huge time saver.
Getting rid of that inconsistent follow-up problem.
Exactly. Their WordPress website was enhanced for content management, like creating blog posts, capturing leads, and potentially website automation down the line. The key is, all of this operated within that secure IPA-compliant architecture.
Got it. All under the compliance umbrella.
Correct. The core platform tying much of this together was HubSpot CRM, specifically configured for HIPAA compliance. It was used for managing contacts, running compliant email marketing campaigns, tracking the pipeline towards that 30-plus goal, and importantly, it had the capability to integrate with their existing Hospice MD EMR system.
That EMR link is crucial.
Absolutely. They also added AI enhancement tools like Canva for design automation, creating materials faster, and People Data Labs for competitive intelligence and market research.
Okay, a whole suite of integrated compliant tools.
And it wasn't just about functionality and compliance. This integrated approach also led to significant cost optimization results, as highlighted in the case study. Remember that $100 a month hosting cost?
Yeah.
Reduced to less than $10 a month? A 96% reduction right there.
Wow.
They completely avoided the need for an expensive CRM like Playmaker by leveraging the capabilities of HubSpot, which was more budget-friendly and configurable for IPA, and integrating these tools meant they didn't need to pay for multiple disparate point solutions.
That's incredible, achieving this robust compliance system while also slashing costs like hosting. What's fascinating here is how the compliance piece wasn't an afterthought, but built in from the start as a core requirement.
It had to be.
This raises an important question for anyone adopting new technology, really. How are you ensuring your own data is protected? Something to think about.
Definitely.
So, with this strategic preparation and the HIPAA First Tech Foundation in place, let's talk about the projected business impact. What did the case study show this setup enabling for the hospice?
Right. The source details a clear projected business impact focused squarely on hitting that ambitious 76% growth target. It wasn't just about adding tools. It was about fundamentally enhancing the strategic capability of both the business development manager and the owner.
Boosting their effectiveness.
Hugely. For the BD manager, it was transformative. Their territory coverage capacity increased dramatically from effectively covering one territory manually to potentially 3 territories through AI-assisted outreach and automation.
Triple the coverage.
Potentially, yes. Follow-up consistency went from sporadic and manual to automated sequences triggered intelligently based on contact interactions. They gained real-time competitive intelligence, monitoring messaging from competitors like Vidas and Silverado instantly.
Knowing what the competition is saying.
Exactly. And they could achieve true personalization at scale, crafting custom messages for different referral sources like hospitals, SNFs, and specific physician groups, something impossible to do manually for hundreds of contacts.
Right, you can't scale that personal touch manually.
Not effectively.
Mm.
For the owner and operations lead, this meant gaining crucial strategic business intelligence. They got an executive dashboard providing real-time performance tracking towards the 30-plus admission goal. Automated competitive analysis helped them strategize counterpositioning in the market.
Seeing the whole
Exactly. AI-assisted analysis supported complex contract strategy development, tackling those difficult situations like the LA Care contract. They could use data for smart resource allocation optimization. Most importantly, this business intelligence freed up the owner's time for high-level strategy instead of getting buried in operational details,
giving that time back.
which is valuable. And the built-in HIPAA monitoring contributed directly to crucial risk management and breach prevention.
That shift in capability is huge. It turns the BD person from being just busy to being like a force multiplied by technology.
That's a good way to put it.
And it gives the owner back precious time.
What about the actual numbers, the projected revenue growth?
Okay, so the case study outlines a clear revenue growth trajectory. It projected hitting specific milestones towards the goal. Month 1, aiming for 20-plus admissions. Month 2, targeting 24-plus MON. Month 3, at 27-plus MON. And by month 4, reaching that target of 30-plus admissions per month.
A steady ramp-up. Yes. Let's look at the financial impact analysis the source provides. Their starting point was 17 admissions per month. The target is 30-plus SU, representing a 76% increase.
Okay.
The calculation shows those 13 additional admissions, at an average of $3,000 each, translate to an extra $39,000 per month in revenue.
$39,000 more per month?
Per month. Annually, that's an additional revenue increase of over $468,000.
Almost $500,000 more per year.
Right. And the total program investment, just $12,500.
Wait, hang on. An investment of $12,500 leading to over $468,000 in additional annual revenue.
Exactly. The projected ROI the case study calculates is, well, it's staggering. 3,700% first-year return.
3,700% ROI.
Yep, with a payback period on the initial investment in just 10 days.
A 10-day payback period. That's not just incredible, that's transformative.
It absolutely is.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that ROI isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It represents the creation of massive business value in a very short time.
That's the key takeaway, real tangible business value creation.
So they were positioned for significant growth with a compliant system. How did all of this change their standing competitively in the market, according to the source?
Well, the source explains this fundamentally changed their competitive position. While many smaller hospices are still using basic tools, and larger ones can be perceived as losing that personal touch,
Right.
this provider became, as the source describes it, the most technologically advanced hospice in market, without sacrificing their personal service advantage. That's the key balance.
Tech-enabled, but still high-touch.
Exactly. They can now use AI-powered insights to potentially drive better patient and family outcomes and provide faster, more informed service to referring providers. They gained a rapid response capability that actually exceeded that of much larger competitors, who were often slower due to their size and bureaucracy.
You're agile.
Yes. And their real-time strategic intelligence allowed for proactive, competitive counterpositioning. They weren't just reacting anymore.
And the case study highlights strategic timing. Why was this the right moment to make this move? Why now?
Several factors converged, according to the source. That aggressive 4-month growth target created a necessary sense of urgency. Implementing in Q3 allowed them to leverage the typical summer growth season in their market.
Taking advantage of seasonality.
Right. Crucially, there was a market gap. Competitors hadn't yet adopted similar strategic AI approaches, giving them a first-mover advantage.
Getting ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And they had strong existing BD talent ready to be empowered and scaled. They just needed the right tools and strategy to unlock that potential.
Seizing that moment sounds like it was key to such rapid potential results.
It seems like it, yes.
Let's dig into the nuts and bolts of the implementation. How did they actually put this plan into action as described in the source? What was the process?
They followed what the source calls a foundation-first strategy. The emphasis was clear. Build the infrastructure before you start training people on it.
Infrastructure first, then training. Makes sense.
Why do it that way? Well, the source argues that training happens on live data within the actual system people will use, which means they're learning in a real relevant context, not just theory.
Learning by doing, basically.
You start seeing immediate ROI as the system is built, even before full training is complete. People are working with their real workflows, not abstract examples. And perhaps most importantly, it allows for measurable impact from day one of training people, see the system working, and can immediately tie their learning to real business results.
That immediate feedback loop sounds valuable.
Very. The case study details a rapid 10-day foundation implementation. Days 1 to 3 were platform setup, configuring and testing the HIPAA-compliant HubSpot, migrating and organizing existing contact data from their phone system, and verifying the Microsoft Office 365 integration.
Getting the core platforms ready.
Exactly. Days 4 to 6 focused on core AI integration, enhancing their WordPress website with blog functionality and lead capture forms, setting up the brand environment in Canva, and integrating an AI chat agent on the website for lead qualification.
Adding the AI layers.
Yep. Days 7-10 were testing and launch readiness, conducting full system integration testing, performing the final HIAP appliance verification, and documenting everything meticulously, and preparing the environment and materials for staff training.
Building and verifying the entire core system in just 10 business days. That's incredibly efficient.
It's a very focused approach.
What about the training itself? When did that happen?
The training happened in weeks 3 to 5, so right after the foundation was built and verified. It was structured into 3 distinct sessions. Session 1 was hands-on, setting up the business development manager's Claude MCP environment and showing them how to leverage automation within their daily workflow.
Getting the main user up to speed.
Right. Session 2 covered strategic AI applications more broadly for both the manager and the owner operations lead, showing them how to use the intelligence gathered for planning and decision-making. And Session 3 focused on more advanced integration points and optimizing the owner's business intelligence dashboards for ongoing tracking.
So the system was solid and verified first, providing a firm base, and then the training focused on maximizing the capabilities of that new system, a logical flow.
That seems to be the rationale presented, yeah. Foundation, then optimization through training.
The source also mentions risk mitigation and the investment details. What assurances did they provide, and what was the cost structure?
Right. The source mentions implementation assurance. This included delivery guarantees, like getting the core operational systems live within those 10 business days, ensuring high-level compliance was verified and documented, confirming training readiness, and including a 30-day optimization period post-launch to fine-tune things.
Okay, some built-in support.
Yes. They defined clear success metrics, like confirming 100% contact migration, ensuring email campaigns were active and compliant, verifying the AI assistant was effective, and that the live dashboards were functional and accurate.
Measurable deliverables.
Exactly. For contingency planning, the source mentioned strategies like extended support if timelines slipped unexpectedly, priority troubleshooting for any issues, having backup systems in place, and conducting regular compliance audits to stay ahead of potential problems.
Covering the bases and the investment.
For the investment analysis, the total program investment was itemized clearly. $2,500 for the AI training program and $10,000 for the technology foundation package.
So a total investment of $12,500?
Correct. $12,500 total.
And again, we've seen that leads to a projected 3,700% first-year ROI and a 10-day payback period. Just remarkable numbers.
They really are. And the source really pushes beyond just the financial ROI to emphasize the strategic business value creation. It wasn't just about the money.
Right, the broader impact.
Yes. This methodology resulted in owner time recovery, freeing up crucial time for high-level strategy. It enabled business development multiplication, allowing the BD manager to effectively cover potentially 3 times their previous territory. It provided tools for revenue multiplication that magnify human efforts rather than just automating tasks away.
Amplifying capabilities.
Precisely. It delivered critical competitive intelligence. It provided significant business risk mitigation by actively preventing those potential multi-million-dollar HAPA violations. It built a solid scalability foundation for future growth. And perhaps most fundamentally, the compliance-first approach ensured business value protection, safeguarding the very value they were working so hard to build.
That list of strategic benefits really goes to the heart of running and growing a business successfully, doesn't it?
It really covers the key pillars for an owner-operator.
And the case study presents this not just as a one-off success, but a replicable strategic methodology. How does the source suggest this approach can be applied beyond this one hospice case?
That's a key point in the source material. It identifies specific core differentiators that it argues professional service leaders can apply. First, that pre-engagement strategic intelligence, those 3+ hours of research, the AI-powered analysis, getting a deep understanding of regulatory landscapes, and developing a client-specific strategy before the initial discovery session. That prep work.
Doing the homework up front.
Exactly. Second, experience-driven solution architecture, leveraging significant real-world experience in areas like business development, compliance, and specific industries to design solutions that truly serve the business needs, not just implementing tech for tech's sake.
Experience matters.
It argues it does, heavily. And third, business-first technology implementation, choosing and configuring tools specifically to magnify human efforts, focus relentlessly on ROI, prioritize compliance to protect value, and build a foundation for scaling.
Technology serving the business, not the other way around.
That's the idea. This methodology directly addresses what the source calls the small business owner dilemma, that challenge of being trapped in operations instead of working on strategic growth.
Yeah, that classic struggle.
And it suggests it's applicable to industries with similar owner challenges listed in the source. Other healthcare providers grappling with compliance and owner-operator models, professional services where the owner's expertise often drives the growth.
Like consultants, agencies.
Right. B2B service providers competing against larger incumbents, and pretty much any regulated industries balancing the need for growth with strict oversight requirements.
So this case study isn't just a hospice story. It's presented as potentially a blueprint for many types of business owners who feel like they're hitting a similar wall.
That's how the source positions it, yes. It distills universal owner strategic principles from this case. The critical role of deep industry research for informed decision-making, the non-negotiable importance of a compliance-first technology architecture to protect the value you're building.
Non-negotiable, good point.
The necessity of owner time recovery for high-level strategy, and the focus on measurable ROI with clear outcomes that directly impact enterprise value and, ultimately, the owner's equity.
That really brings it into focus. This wasn't just about adopting AI. It was about a specific strategic approach powered by AI with compliance built in from the absolute start.
Compliance is a prerequisite for growth, essentially.
So, based on everything we've explored in this deep dive into the case study, what are the key takeaways the source highlights for business owners listening in?
Well, the source's key takeaways for business owners section really wraps up the core lessons nicely. First, the strategic preparation advantage. Those initial 6 hours of research weren't just busy work. They provided immediate credibility and ensured the proposed solution was accurate and targeted, which is critical for owners making significant tech investments.
Build trust and accuracy early.
Exactly. Second, compliance-first protection. The deep compliance expertise wasn't a formality. It actively protected the business value against violation costs that, as we saw, could potentially exceed the value of the business itself. It's risk management 101.
Protecting the downside.
Definitely. Third, experience-driven solutions. The real-world business development experience ensured the technology chosen and implemented truly served the overarching business strategy and the owner's specific goals, not just some generic AI plan.
Tailored to the business.
Fourth, measurable business outcomes. The clear ROI projections and milestone tracking weren't hypothetical. They showed how this approach directly boosts business value and owner equity. Real numbers, real impact.
Tangible results.
And finally, owner time recovery. The strategic intelligence and automation genuinely gave the owner back precious time to focus on high-level strategic growth, getting them out of the operational weeds.
Powerful lessons drawn directly from this real-world example. It really highlights how shifting the focus from just getting tasks done to strategically multiplying your capabilities can transform a business.
I think what this case study really underscores is that for regulated industries, or frankly any business handling sensitive data, strategic growth must go hand in hand with rigorous compliance. Trying to grow without that foundation is like, well, building a beautiful house on sand, isn't it? It's just not sustainable or safe.
That's a great analogy. So, reflecting on this deep dive into the case study, it leaves us with a really important question, which the source itself calls the owner's strategic question. And it asks you, the listener, do you want an AI consultant who simply teaches your team how to use a tool, or do you want a strategic business consultant who truly understands owner challenges and uses AI to multiply your business development capabilities while actively protecting your enterprise value from significant compliance risks?
It's a fundamental choice in how you approach technology adoption.
Definitely something to consider as you think about your own business challenges and where you want to go. Thanks for going on this deep dive with us today.